Hey, it's Drybear. The First Descendant devs have opened up the Q&A portion on their Discord since last night, and they've been going to town answering a bunch of questions. So today I want to summarize everything that's been said and promised so far. Starting with the first question that came out almost immediately is people were asking for a crouch option, which we know is completely innocent and just really just tactical so they can hide behind cover, which they responded with. They are not currently working on any crouch option for this. It likely would require an extra keybind on console, and I don't even know if the press-in analog that you usually get with crouches or things like that is available, but they do not have it on their radar. They're not looking to do a crouch anytime soon. It was also asked whether or not they will improve some of the lesser utilized core bindings or augmentations for the weapon core system. There was mentioned like the faction bonuses to specific factions being relatively underperforming to the other options, and they mentioned that the increase in firearm attack power can be accessed through the free augmentation, so the open slot, if you wanted to add more there, and there are no plans to add the same attack power to the special slot to kind of, you know, make up for the fact that the factions aren't as utilized. However, as we aim to introduce more challenging content, we will consider reviewing the performance of faction bonus damage or adding other options to the special augmentation slot, such as transferring some precision augmentation options to it. So this could be really interesting. I think that the core augmentation system is already insanely strong, way more than we thought at first when we first heard about it, as it can make some of the weapons so ridiculously powerful, and then being able to change those slots or even transfer to new slots, I think is going to be a huge win, a huge boon, and potentially even too strong, but we'll have to see how that goes. They also mentioned that the update for keyboard and mouse support on consoles is planned for February 6th, so just a couple weeks away. And they also mentioned that there are improvements to the dye system coming in the March update, the next update, including more detailed dyeable areas for a lot of skins, as well as the addition of beard and eyebrow dyeing if you wanted to change those hair color as well. A quick note on balance, they currently believe that some Descendants are in an over-balanced state, since we previously decided not to nerf Freyna, as people were asking for Freyna nerfs or wanting it to stay the same. They decided not to nerf Freyna, and because of that, we believe it's necessary to readjust the performance of other Descendants based on the current over-balanced ones. Our goal is to raise the overall performance of all Descendants to a higher standard and release content with difficulty levels matching this improvement. Naturally, we will ensure that Glay is not left out in the process. Now, obviously, there's big questions around characters like Jayber, even Keelan, who was brand new, saw a massive buff and still is underperforming compared to other Descendants. And there's plenty of other Descendants in the game that could use a little bit more love, like SDMO or Kyle in that sense, and maybe this comes with the ultimate process, but it seems like the new Inez and the updated Freyna are what they're looking for as far as the power and relative strength of the Descendants. They're going to try and bring other characters up to that. Now, I do have concerns around performance and general server stability, depending on how they continue down this road. I think there was a very noticeable client server disruption by adding in Freyna with Contagion and the reworks there, and I think Inez has made that problem even more exacerbated. So if they continue down this path of allowing this kind of performance on servers, I think it can very easily lead to some really nasty situations for a lot of low-end PCs and some of the older generation consoles as well, and even in some cases some of the newer generation options as well, just being completely blasted out by the runaway nature of these characters. So I hope that in the March update and beyond, they are looking at not only the amount of power that a character has, but also their impact on server performance and client-server interaction. Another big one here is people were asking for the ability to bulk research, as in research multiple things of a certain kind at one time to be able to get more done with a single research. This is something I don't think they'll ever do, considering that they do want to encourage you to expedite the research using Caliber, or at least just manage your time so that you're constantly logging in. However, they do mention that in future updates, they're thinking about an idea where they would allow the research of simultaneous catalysts going at once through new content. So there could be a new research option or a new research kiosk or character that allows you to, you know, research catalysts, and then on East can also still research catalysts, so technically you're doing two researches at once. And on the point of Descendant Balance, they were asked directly about characters like Jayber just not having the amount of power that they need, and they said that they are going to continue to discuss it with the relevant teams, and they do want to release melee weapons as standalone weapons, and it's one of their long-term goals. They agree that melee attacks using support modules are currently not a viable alternative to grappling modules, and melee weapons are part of our plans So look forward to incoming updates. And I think, honestly, if Warframe can have a couple hundred melee weapons and make it work, I think TFD certainly can as well, and it would be a super cool option. Next is a very interesting topic that I can share some insight on, having been a dev for quite a while myself, but there was a question of, hey, can you make sure that all of the universal skins become backwards compatible with every character that comes out in every form and every shape? And the response is, I think the only real response a dev can give, which is they've given a lot of thought to this as far as universal skins and making them available as new characters come out. And honestly, there has been a lot of feedback around characters not having like the same body type. So the more unique height, shape, silhouette style characters come out, the less they can make skins that are universal, and the more costly it becomes when they want to add a new skin and make it universal for everybody, right? So it's kind of like an ongoing challenge. If they decided that they wanted to make all the characters similar height and distribution, they can use similar rigs and animation sets and things like that, then it becomes cheaper and more reasonable for them to share all of their skins. But the more unique those characters become and the more different they become, the more expensive that becomes as well going into the future. So it's just going to be an ongoing thing on whether or not skins can continue to be generally universal. They said they're committed to making these as universal as possible and as functional as they can, but just kind of keep in mind that they are trying to work within the constraints that they have. This next question was bound to happen, but they were asked directly about why none of the weapon cores apply to the unique weapons like Freyna's gun or Lepic's arm or Haley's zenith or any of those. And they said that it was intentional and for a good reason. Actually, a lot of the stats that you can get on the core weapon unlocks would be completely busted on the unique weapons that are already currently outscaling the normal weapons anyway, like getting Freyna's unique weapon or even the new like laundry bomb for Valby. We know Lepic's weapon is insanely strong. All of these, in many cases, outshine a lot of the core weapons in the game, and their biggest limitation is that they are time limited. Like they don't have infinite ammo. They are reliant on skill duration or mana or things like that. And so they feel that with the core weapon system, they don't want to break that even more. And so none of the cores apply to the unique weapons, and they intentionally did that to make sure that the balance of the game stays as stable as it can be. They were also asked about idle animations for the characters. I know a lot of people really love the personality that come from the characters on the character select screen. So when you're sitting before you log in, you're looking at your character and they're animating and being themselves. People love that. So they were asked directly about the potential of having like walking animations to be able to walk when you're in towns or RP walk in RPGs, and you'd be able to use that. And they have started the discussion of doing idle animations other than the one, like we have one in game that everybody has where the character looks back and says, hey, let's go, come on. That animation is already in game, but they've talked about doing other idle animations per character and just adding to the personality, which is good because it means that people are obviously attached to the personalities of these characters and liking them individually, which is what you want in a character-based game. They were also asked about the next companion to be released and future companions in general. We know when they were first talking about the release of Season 2, they mentioned that they do want to and have been talking internally about a cat as well as a drone that can heal you and a cat that might be able to restore mana or something like that. But they have confirmed that the next companion after the German Shepherd is actually going to be a Labrador Retriever. And after that, they plan to look at more feedback to add in more companions from there. I think the Labrador is probably going to be just an easy add because they already have like the animations and setup for a dog, so they can just add another dog with, you know, different changes to the body shape and function, and we'll see if it ends up being like something different than the one that we have right now with the GSP. They also confirmed that they are working on the ability to replace or implant the first weapon mounting on a reactor. Currently, you can only add 2 more, but you can't replace the first one, and they said they're working on it, and hopefully with next update for Season 3 they will have that implemented in the game. So they are working on it, and eventually you will be able to change or replace all 3 of the mounting options for a reactor in the game. Another excellent question I'm sure a lot of you have had already in around the Void Abyss bosses. Some people have wondered, does the Void Abyss selection actually need to rotate at all? Why couldn't we just leave all the Void Abyss bosses in the game as is and you can choose between them and play them? And They mentioned that they are worried about the matchmaking, which is true. If we end up with 5, 6, or 7 Void Abyss bosses, and if you're trying to do the newest one, but people are trying to do like 4 bosses ago, the matchmaking starts to get very separated, especially with the seasonal nature of TFD as it's kind of turning into now, where more people playing at the start of a release of a patch and less are playing afterwards. So the second half of a patch cycle, you may get to the point where no one's queuing for the specific Void Abyss, and they like the fact that everyone will, if they want the current Void Abyss, like if they want Void Abyss tickets or they want the Void Shards, they will have to do the only Void Abyss available, which in this case would be Defiler. So they like it being seasonal, they like it rotating, and they will continue to do so. So with Season 3, we will get a new Void Abyss boss and new, Call of Toys and things like that available for those characters, and they will continue doing so in the future. They're also asked about adding more endgame content. It's actually hard. I think there's been a kind of a mixed reaction from a lot of people. Some people are feeling like the Void Abyss bosses and the Void Erosion Purge are just simply too easy, and that we have a lot of character power now that doesn't really challenge our builds too much. And some people feel the opposite, and there are people in the middle as well. I know people that are still struggling to complete the Void Erosion or still struggling to get the kills on the Void Abyss, and there's people that are on the other side of the camp feeling like it was just a breeze and it was way too easy. So they mentioned on that front that they plan to continuously add various types of endgame content that allows players to enjoy more challenging experience with their completed builds. The recently added Void Erosion Purge is expected to serve as endgame content, and they will be adding more floors to it as well, so it'll continue to scale higher and higher with higher levels of Vulgus as well. And I think what's kind of showing in the results right now is as they add more content and keep the old content, more and more of the game gets fleshed out, right? Still being able to do Void Vessels, Invasions, now the new Void Erosion, Void Abyss, Void Intercept. As they add more activities and keep those between seasons, the game becomes more and more fleshed out, which hopefully is their goal moving forward. They were also asked about Jiggle Physics and when those will come online. They said there's still a bunch of work to be done on that, and they expect the update to happen around May. So not with the launch of Season 3, probably towards the end of Season 3 is when they're expecting Jiggle Physics to come online. Another great question is around the core unlock system and Augmentation Cores. Currently, there are 7 levels of Augmentation Cores, and given the severe price of implanting the Augmentation Cores in the core unlock system for weapons, you pretty much only want to ever be implanting 7s because you end up burning so many resources that you want to be able to play around with it. And we know that there are higher levels of Augmentation Cores coming as well. So the question is asked, well, what about being able to merge together lower level cores that we can make good use of them so it's not so wasteful with the lower level? And they said they're working on it, and with the February 6th update, they expect to add, I think, a new level, so like level 8 cores. And they also mentioned that you will be able to combine cores to maybe 3 of a kind, increases the core level by 1, so you can actually use all your lower level cores, combine them up into the highest level possible without those just sitting in your inventory and rotting. Another cool addition is they are planning to add a Colossus to the laboratory to be able to summon it. There's definitely going to be some interesting options here because every Colossus has different stats. They have a different limitation on how critical strikes apply to them. They have different damage reductions and different resistances and defenses. So I'm curious what they're going to do. Are they going to allow us to summon every possible Colossi? And there's also some discrepancies between what shows up in the laboratory and what shows up in an actual match or actual combat. So I'm curious what this is going to be like, but at the very least, it would allow us to test some things on Colossi a little bit more consistently. And as long as we can understand the difference between real combat and laboratory, this will be a good addition. Another question was asked on whether they will be adding more ultimate skins to the existing ultimate Descendants, and they said that the answer is yes. They're actually allocating and hiring more people to be able to add more cosmetics to the game at a faster rate. So more skins for existing characters, new skins for new characters, so on and so forth. It's also asked about the stack limitation for consumables. They recently increased some of these stacks to even higher heights, and this is going to be an ongoing problem unless they add some way to garbage collect old consumables that you don't need. My Lost and Found is full of shape stabilizers from the special operations, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to clear out the amount that I need to get rid of them just because I have so many of the shape stabilizers, the normal ones anyway. But they do mention that they are currently preparing a patch to increase the stack limit for consumables. While some consumables will still have stack limits, we aim to improve the system to allow for greater quantities of various consumables to be held at once, and they will work to deliver this as soon as they can. This next one is a big one revolving around Void Abyss metal fragments. You currently get 20 from doing the 400% dungeon full completion, and then you get on average like between 50 and 70 from doing Defiler. So there's definitely a thought that like doing the entirety of a dungeon to get 20 fragments isn't enough, so they will be increasing very soon the amount of Void Abyss metal fragments you get from 400% infiltration from 20 to 40, which is going to be a nice doubling the amount that you get there. And they're currently reviewing the core unlock progress data to assess whether there is a shortage of materials. I think there's definitely going to be some thoughts on being able to unlock cores, how much it takes, and also just being able to like add more cores to it. I think in general, as long as you're able to clear high level void erosion, you're getting enough cores. It's more just that you're not, it takes a while to farm up the Void Abyss fragments to make the materials that you need to re-roll a stat or implant a stat or unlock a weapon to be usable for the core system in general. So they do mention that. And if material supply is deemed necessary, they will consider enabling sub-farming through other content to get you even more of these materials if they feel like it's lacking. Another big one, since they added the ability to copy and paste a loadout between different loadout pages in the game. A lot of people have been asking for the Warframe feature where you can copy a loadout and send it to somebody else, or you can share it with someone in chat. They can click on it and it brings the loadout out, and you can copy their build if you're looking for it without having to go online or any of that kind of stuff, which is especially good for console where, you know, some of that may be inaccessible. So they are currently working on the ability to view the gear setups of another Descendant, and that's being worked on right now, and they will share updates as soon as possible. The ability to view other players' equipped items and module setups will be introduced with further enhancements to follow over time. This video is already getting pretty long, so I'll save that. They're still going through today and tomorrow, so I will update you probably tomorrow when we have more on the Q&A, but hopefully this gives you a good dose of what they're talking about, what they're looking on, and what they're working on right now over at Magnum. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.